Raging Bolt was out of the question, so I tried this. I went with Electabuzz. But why? Why did I decide to go with Electabuzz? Being a proud owner of Pokemon Violet, which may in retrospect been an oversight by me going into the competitive format and playing Pokemon competitively, I can't get Raging Bolt. I don't have that as an option to me. So I was sitting there thinking, I need an electric type or a Pokemon that'd be really great against Urshifu. And yes, Rillaboom was definitely an answer and is a Pokemon on my team currently, but I felt like I was missing something on my team which was super important. I refer to these as principles of play. Having one Pokemon with Intimidate, one Pokemon that can set up for terrain, and one Pokemon that can redirect moves. Let's double click on that last point. Redirection. I didn't have a redirection Pokemon on my team. And a lot of Pokemon have access to redirection. Amoonguss comes to mind, very strong Pokemon with Rage Powder. Sinistcha with Rage Powder. Follow me on Clefairy. Follow me on Indeedee. Follow me also on Ogerpon. But then I was scouring the internet and I looked at some teams that were played in online tournaments and a team that finished very high. And Electabuzz was on it. And I looked at how it was used and it has access to Follow Me. But the more important part of that puzzle is that Electabuzz has the ability Static. That means it has a 30% chance to paralyze the opponent's Pokemon if it was contacted by a physical move. So when this bear hits me with a Surging Strike, let's just say instead of it running to hit me, it's going to be walking back and hobbling since it's paralyzed. Paralyzing an opponent's Pokemon does not only result in a 50% speed reduction for that Pokemon, it also gives the Pokemon a 1 in 4 chance of not even using its move since it's paralyzed. Because of the speed reduction and the team I formulated around the Electabuzz, it allowed some of my Pokemon to outspeed Pokemon which usually would be quite middling or slow in the format. Entei, Dragonite, Rillaboom, those are just some of the Pokemon I had alongside this Electabuzz. Electabuzz was my support Pokemon. And you're probably thinking, Electabuzz's stats when on the surface don't look too great. But since Electabuzz can evolve, it has access to an item that is very powerful in the Eviolite. The Eviolite gives the defense and special defense a 1.5 times multiplier since the Pokemon can evolve. And in this case, this is a perfect item for Electabuzz to hold on to since it's the support Pokemon. Electabuzz helps my Pokemon thrive and fulfill their fullest potential. The Pokemon I mentioned earlier, despite them having middling speeds, have access to priority. Extreme Speed, Grassy Glide, just to name a few of the moves that they can use that has priority for them. And the Electabuzz has access to another move which I love. Helping Hand. Helping Hand will actually go before Protect and any other move in the game. And it gives a multiplier to the move being used by your partner. So when my Dragonite wants to Extreme Speed, we can give it a little bit of a Helping Hand from the Electabuzz and be able to take out the Pokemon that may have lived the Extreme Speed. To round off the moveset on the Electabuzz, I gave it Electro Web and Psychic. Electro Web is super important because that's another form of speed control. Despite having Static, that only applies to Pokemon physically hitting the Electabuzz. For those pesky, specially offensive Pokemon, to slow those ones down, we needed Electro Web. The last move, Psychic, was just there for coverage. I know a lot of Pokemon that Terra into Poison, Latias, Landorus Incarnate, and just having a move like Psychic is a great way to help defeat these Pokemon. To really put my money where my mouth was, I decided to take the Electabuzz into some online tournaments. So let's go over some of the replays for these matches. Jumping straight into these tournament games, if you look at my opponent's team here, they have an Incineroar, Arcanine, Hisui, Superior, Sneasler, Suicune, and a Thundurus. I don't want to go into detail for every single game, so I'm going to cut into the snippets and the highlights of some of the matches. And let's jump right into this first game. In the first game, we did actually lose. Electabuzz came in a bit too late, and something to take note of is that if Follow Me is being used by my Electabuzz and the Arcanine is faster than me, Extreme Speed will then go first. I was not aware of this at the time, and it's something I've learned during the process of testing with this team. In the second game, I bought my Electabuzz a little bit more early. with my Rillaboom, and I was very aware of the fact that I can either helping hand or redirect, which is something that Electabuzz really, once it gets going, is going to be super useful, and that speed control is very, very important. The Rillaboom was going to go down because the Sneasler had the speed boost, but I knew I was going to live any move from the Suicune, and having the speed reduction definitely helped me in this game to close it off. I then bring in the Chiempo to close out the game, and something that I was not aware of is that Sneasler got upper hand, which is a new move that's been added into the DLC, whereby if I use a priority move, for example like Sucker Punch, it would have been able to take me down to my Focus Sash and the Chiempo would not be able to move. But having redirection is super important here. Follow Me stops any moves going into the Electabuzz, into the Chiempo slow, and Electabuzz would most definitely live it and potentially even get a static, which is super useful, especially against the Sneasler. Seeing the Superior come in was absolutely perfect, and it's great to see that happen because we know that we can close out the game very nicely with the help of Electabuzz besides the Chiempo. This was an endgame scenario. Dragonite is on the field and my Electabuzz versing a Urshifu and Incineroar. They couldn't fake out, there was no pressure. Surging Strikes is going to do nothing to both my Electabuzz and my Dragonite, and knowing this, I wanted to get that static off, and this was foreshadowed early in the video with this clip, and this was so important because the static would definitely help in the next turn thereafter to be able to outspeed with my Dragonite, and even with my Electabuzz to be able to take out the Urshifu. And the Terra Water, forcing out Terras so early on in games is super important, and you'll see now in one moment that the Outrage is then going to go into the slot. I did have to play a little bit risky in this game. You can tell that I happened to actually hurt myself the initial round, but getting that static off, getting that Electro Web is going to be so useful. And you see that Electabuzz lives on with such little HP and gets a double static. The reason for playing so risky was that I had a Flutter Mane at the back, so I knew that the Electabuzz would be able to tank both hits using the Electro Web. I definitely could have played this game better, but we did close out the game with the Flutter Mane in order to win that set. This was another closeout game. We see the Tornadus and the Incineroar comes in. I have to bring in my Chiempo and my Electabuzz. It was very apparent to me the Incineroar would definitely fake out, and if that was the case, I knew that with an Intimidate I was not going to be able to take out the Incineroar at that HP, so I used the Helping Hand to get that 1.5 times boost, because Helping Hand goes before Fake Out, which is something I may not have mentioned during this video, but something that's really, really useful because the Tornadus is against a 2v1 against the Chiempo and Electabuzz, even though there's 3 Pokemon left on the field. On my opponent's side, I've only got 2. It was really the game changer, and I knew that Incineroar had to go, and by doing that, we were in a very solid position because the next Pokemon that came out was actually the Latias. I wasn't so sure what the Latias wanted to do. I know it was probably going to Terra, because if Tornadus was a Terra Ghost, it wasn't going to be in a good situation against the Chiempo. I know Latias has a Tailwind normally on its set, Mist Ball, Draco Meteor, so I wanted the Electabuzz to redirect that. So I wanted to redirect and then force a move onto Tornadus, and that was being Icicle Crash and take it down to a super low amount of HP, and then moving forward we can literally double target the Latias or protect with my Chiempo and just Electro Web just to slow down my opponent up until we get to a point where we're very comfortable. And yet again you see Sucker Punch able to take out the Latias after the Helping Hand, which is super useful, and that's why I love bringing Electabuzz in to close out games. I hope you guys enjoyed this mini showcase of what Electabuzz is able to do. I then, from the moment of recording this video on the 4th of February, I've done 2 Premier Challenges. I finished in top 8 in both of them. Unfortunately, I'm losing the round 1 of the playoff, so to speak, in the top 8. And I'm hoping to, moving forward, just get used to having that battle practice under my belt and just having those repetitions and iterations. It's a very long process. Don't be disheartened if you're on the journey as a Pokemon player and you're really struggling. I feel like sometimes you're going to have those ups and downs, but mentality is the most important thing. If you did enjoy the video, like, comment and subscribe, and you want to use the Electabuzz team, I will be posting the paste to the team in the link in the description and also on the screen right now. Thank you.